Okay, so here's the tree I'm going to be starting to cut today. It's a red maple that cracked up here at the base of the trunk. It's a twin tree and one of the trunks cracked at the base. It's about 60 or so feet long. Comes down here, and I'll be starting at that end here with the smaller branches, cut those off, and just gradually work my way down the trunk. And I'll have to keep cognizant of the fact that because this is a trunk that's laying down, you can't just cut straight down through the trunk or your saw will get bound. This will close around the saw as you get down further. The cut that you make will start closing up because the tree's pushing down, so you have to do an undercut. So I'm working my way up the main trunk here, and you can see I've taken off this side of the twin trunk here. Now, since this part of the trunk is supporting a large amount of the weight of this tree trunk, if I go further than this way, I think this trunk is going to collapse to the ground and make it hard to cut. So I've put a couple little support pieces under here, so when I cut it off this end, hopefully this will hold it up and I'll be able to gradually cut off of this end with it being held up in the air, which makes it easier to cut. Here's another little support I put under. Now the tree is wrapped around this other tree here with a couple branches, so that may help support it as well. There was a lot of pressure on this lower limb that was holding up the tree trunk. I cut it from the top a little bit first. I could see it was going to bind, and then I came up from underneath, and I just started underneath, and then it just snapped right off. You can see here the torsion that just snapped it right off. So this trunk is now pushing down a lot of weight on these little support pieces. I've cut off to here, and the next piece isn't really a full-size piece of wood, so I've got to decide whether to try and support it back further, or I might just try cutting it off here somewhere. I'm going to try cutting it off here where it's relatively narrow. It gets very wide right here, and that'll give me another 8-foot piece or so. It's a bit dicey here because this is still under high pressure, I believe, so I'm going to come down from the top a bit, then come from underneath and just be ready to move because it could come crashing down very quickly. So we got the top end of the tree all cut up here. That whole section that was there. And now it's here, filling up most of the cart. I got quite a bit of small stuff in the bottom. And even this is somewhat small, but I do have some larger chunks in there as well. Doing this part of the tree is going to be trickier for sure. There's also this tree that's broken down and hanging up in another beech up there. But to cut this down, you can see it's got another branch that wraps around this tree. And up here now we're talking a foot diameter or wider. I could try cutting it right here just to bring it down to the ground, but you can see that the trunk has broken and twisted here at the base, so there's probably a lot of tension in here, and I'd have to be very careful that if I cut this here that it wouldn't come rolling on top of me. And for that reason I may just leave it. I don't know. I could also cut just here on the other side of this other branch here. Not sure. So in the end I did decide to cut off this secondary supporting branch here that was down here, and now it's over here. And I've started cutting it up down here, and it was under a bit of tension, but not too bad. This main trunk's the main one that's under a lot of pressure, and you would just have to be careful. I guess if I cut it from this side, this little tree could protect me if it ever decided to fling back this way, but I'm going to leave that for now and think about it. It's a pretty big chunk of wood sitting there, but it's all tangled up. So I think I will give this a try after all. I'm going to try cutting it right here. Go down a bit from the top and then up from the bottom because of the binding effect. And I think between the tree I'm behind right here, holding this trunk up, and the smaller one here, I don't think there's any way it can roll back onto me. So I'm going to just try cutting through here and see if it goes. Because of all the pressure. Ah, that wasn't so bad. Now I can hack away at this piece here. Anyhow, I think that's all I'm going to do today. I've had enough right now. This tree here I'd like to get released just so I could get it down out of the other trees. This one's a little bit precarious, so I'm not quite sure how to handle that. Well, I suspect it would fall from this end because it's well suspended up in that end, so it would probably just break off and then fall forward a bit. But sometimes you can't predict what these things are going to do. As for the other piece that I just cut off, I may section that every 8 feet or so and then gradually cut it up, but I'm in no hurry for that right now. Anyhow, hope you enjoyed this outing to cut firewood. One more wagon of wood. And there it is.